Welcome in, everybody. Welcome in. Thank you all so very much for being here. I surely do appreciate it. It is Weasel Wednesday. Omni, what's happening?
Hello, everyone. I'm the last Tom Detect, your favorite but American, and welcome to Mouse Guard: The Frontier, where our little weekly romp with small adventures and huge adventures. Um, Thank you all for tuning in. As always, for those of you who are unfamiliar, we run this little game about every other week, about this time slot where we run a Mouse Guard First Edition role playing game campaign, which is set just outside the Mouse territories. I can't recommend this game enough. Super fun. Not sponsored. Just think they're neat. So, if you two want to go ahead and give me introductions, obviously, to who you are and what's going on in the last episode, I will assign fate or persona as you would like as a reward.
You made me go first last time. It's your turn.
Oh, I did. I don't remember doing that at all.
Because you couldn't remember.
I don't remember that at all. We ended up kind of getting our shit together a bit, as it were. We decided that the next move has to be made very quickly and concisely. We need to move in on a territory to establish a capital, to put in a proper foothold that we can start to expand and grow from. In order for us to do that, we have to take land from either the owls or the owl, I guess, or the fox. Neither one of these sound particularly easy, given that they both have entire armies at their retinue that are similar in their manner of traversing the world and also combat. So we were having much discussion over what we should do, and we decided that we were going to wait to make a decision until Red was here. And now Red is not here.
Also, that was the end, not the beginning.
That's true.
That's fair.
That works fine by me, though. I'm perfectly good with that. So we will work around that. We have the... as far as Red goes, Red is taking a little step back. He'll be back later. He'll be back at another time in the future, for sure. In the meantime, we're going to continue onwards. Natalie, you want to fill in the gaps for us?
I don't remember what Dukan did with his downtime, but Sayana was setting up her new position as the leader of the tortoise that she's taken over. And she picked Tom, her little apprentice, and another mouse whose name I'm blanking on now. A mouse who'd been in the guard for a while, who has been up for a promotion for a while. She chose them to be the co-second in commands under her. And after she did that is when Gwendolyn kind of called her and Dukan over to get their opinion on which territory they thought they should attack first. Sayana is leaning towards the Fox territory, and that has not changed. And I think that's about it.
Sounds about right to me. So, yeah. Let me just make sure I've got this most recent map updated here, because it should be active. Here we go. Let me move you down. So, yeah, no, that's pretty much exactly what it needs to be identified as. I think that's a good run. So you both get a persona or a fate, your choice, and we'll pick up right where we left off last time, as I add a new map asset here. It has been one of those days with my computer, folks, so I appreciate your patience.
No worries. In Dukan's downtime, he was trying to get a sneaky way off to find for Modi to leave so that he can start weaseling and get his way into her position while she is off doing something that's actually for the good of the expedition. And she somewhat, what's the word? Not tangentially, but she kind of agreed to it. Ostensibly. She ostensibly agreed to it. After I buttered her up. And also, I was advocating for the owls going and taking out the Air Force before they have the ability of knowing we're coming.
That's true. As I recall, also last session, you guys were asked to sort of range ahead of the rest of the party, the rest of the expedition, sort of take your tortoises out and sort of see what you could see, as it were.
We totally got into a fight, didn't we?
You did.
Put
It
that
was
out. We left that out.
huge.
I thought that's where we had ended, but I guess do we recap the session before? And then last session was the fight?
I think you guys might have, yeah, because last session was definitely the fight.
Yeah, we went out on the turtles, and it was late at night. Dukan spotted some mice in the brushes.
I think that was the end of the session.
Oh no, it was actually Sayana who spotted them. Then I threw over Tom to go tell the weasels. We started getting attacked from all areas. There was mice in the trees, mice in the bushes. Sayana shot a mouse down from a bat that was flying on. And
Look
there
at
was
bats.
also a stealthy weasel moving through the group, killing the mice that we were fighting. And it was just all chaos. But in the
That was
end,
cool.
everyone just kind of scattered because it's like we're being attacked by two different mouse tribes. There's weasels, there's bats. No, clearly, no one's winning this fight.
It's raining cats and dogs.
Cats and dogs living together.
Mhm.
Because everyone loves a little bit of that. Yeah, no, that's about right. It got pretty chaotic, and there was someone killing off in the wild, which, as I recall, you all never quite fully identified.
I thought that Dukan sensed or something that it was a weasel, or maybe
Blade
we're
Arms
just saying
McGee.
he was being
That's right.
weaselly.
Yes,
Blade
that is
Arms
correct.
McGee. Yep.
You're pretty sure you saw Blade Arms McGee. So,
BAM for short.
yeah. Blade Arms McGee. Oh God. Yeah, no, that is correct. And it ended just afterward. You also had a close encounter with one of the mice of apparently the two sets of mice that were attacking you at the same time, plus the weasel, which was really your little scouting party's best advantage. Was that it became a three-way battle, and you can sort of play the winners against each other and use the havoc to your advantage.
It was the owl tribe leader mouse that I shot down from the bat, so I wanted him to come down and fight me like a coward, and he instead just ran away altogether.
Yeah, pretty much.
Tail tucked between his legs.
Yeah, coward.
Oh, Lord, he running.
All right. So yeah, that sounds about right. And I'm just muting this over here. So, okay. I'm going to say it's been it's been at least like the rest of the night went by pretty comfortably for you all. There was no more battle. I figure you probably would have gone. How much would you guys have pushed on, or would you guys have waited for the rest of the expedition and told them what happened?
Send a runner would be my advice, but I'm not the one in charge here.
I don't think the runner would make it back to camp.
Well, don't forget you're not too far ahead of the expedition. They're like an hour behind you guys, basically. They just had your tortoises go ahead because you're a smaller force, and it'd be a little bit less obvious to have two tortoises moving along the path than like a train of 20, plus a giant clanking battleship.
Well, they already know we're here, so we might as well wait for the rest of the group.
Okay.
Well, those are our orders. We could send Squeeb or Dwimbly.
If you want to send one of your boys, go ahead. I don't want to lose any of mine.
That's perfectly fair. Takan, who do you want to send? Squeeb, Grimly, or Cole?
I don't want to risk Cole, but at the same time, this would be a really good, scouting. It would be a good mission for him for training. It'd be a good opportunity for him.
If you make it back, you've earned your place here.
Well, he's already earned his place here. I've formally recognized him as having the heart of a weasel at this point.
That's true.
It's still good training, though, because he needs to be stealthy and avoid fighting where he can. If he makes it back to the expedition, he's going to be safe. if they shoot a fire lance, like just not the big one, right? If they shoot like just a regular gun, I'd still hear that, right?
Oh God, yeah. No, that's you're in the middle of the woods. There's no sounds of industry. The only thing you hear is like the odd cricket or bat squeak or something like that. The rustling in the brush. As it gets more towards morning, it would be like birds. But like it's like if someone fires a gun in the middle of nowhere. Everyone within a mile or two is going to hear it. Absolutely. And those things are like 22 caliber handguns on the back of a Galapagos tortoise. You will fucking hear it.
Then in that case, I will have him have Giotto fire off a fire lance if he encountered problems, and then we know not to wait up for him.
Roger that. All right.
Because they're not hiding the big expedition. There's no shot they're going to be hiding that. So if they just randomly fire off something, then, you know, who knows what that is, right?
Yeah.
Also, Natisha, why?
Oh, no. What? Oh, God, hang on. Twitch is still loading for me. Again, one of those days, folks. Tell me, what has occurred? Did we make them dangerous?
Casts a complication arises.
We need to limit those since there's only 2 of us playing right now. I don't want another 2 complications. We had 2 of them last session.
I think it caps at 2.
It does. It caps at 2. And also, if it makes you feel any better, I'm the one determining power here. This isn't like a D&D where it's like, it's time to increase the encounter level by 1. I will decide. Thank you so much, Natisha. Also, hey, this is important, and I think it bears sharing. So there you go, pal. Can't believe
18 months, dude.
A year and a half, right?
That's crazy, bro. Holy shit. Yeah. Our baby's crawling around on the ground. Look at him go, dude. What the fuck?
So you wearing big boy clothes. Our little stream baby.
Much love.
Yeah, of course, pal. Much love. So, yeah, we'll say that if you want to fire off a fire lance, then yeah, they will absolutely hear it. Are you going to continue pushing on, or are you going to just wait a little bit for the rest of the expedition to catch up? You guys said as well.
I want to push on.
Okay.
What's the point of firing the gun?
So, in case there was trouble along the way, that way we know not to wait for him. That he's not going to be catching up with us, because I imagine he's going to be running faster than the tortoises that are carrying us.
I think that's pretty 50-50. Tortoises are actually pretty quick. Most people don't think of them as that. But anyone who's released a tortoise in the wild or a turtle in the wild knows those little fuckers can motor when they want to. The trick is that they can move at the same clip a mouse or a weasel or a hedgehog can when they don't run out of steam. They just keep going for a while. Gotcha. So it's kind of like it's the camel's paradox, right? Like it can run pretty quick. Maybe not as quick as a thoroughbred, but certainly for longer. So in this case, but yeah, that works. So you would, Giotto would nod and jump down and head back.
I tell Cole to check on his hammer when he gets there because he's going to be checking in with Giotto.
Okay, that's fair. So yeah, he hoofs back, and you guys, if you're pushing on or you're staying there, I leave this in your capable hands. You both are in charge of your own tortoise. So if you want to commit your tortoise forward or have your tortoise wait, I leave that in your individual hands. You are technically both commanding your own vessels.
I feel like the move is probably to stick together, so what do you want to do?
Like I said, I've been leaning towards waiting, because if we get attacked again, there's no telling if we're going to give up or go away, and I don't think we really had the upper hand last time.
Okay, so we have Cole grab some reinforcements while he's gone.
Okay. That's fair.
And then we wait.
Okay.
That's fair. Yeah, Cole heads back, and you know that the expedition's about an hour behind you. So Cole's going to get there probably about half an hour, so they'll know what's going on. And sort of like an hour quietly. Oh, thank you. Huzzah. Actually, in fact, have apple juice. Thank you very much. Much obliged, folks. Thank you so much, nurse. So, as you're waiting quietly, you can see the rest of your forces are all sort of on watch. Squeeb and Gremble are both. Gremble's currently being treated for injuries, and Squeeb is minorly injured, but not too bad. They both have the injured condition. Squeeb took so much damage, he's down a health point. But hopefully with a little time he'll recover it. It's going to take a while for that to come back. As y'all are on the move at the moment. Not exactly the perfect place to treat injuries. The rest of your forces, by the way, Natalie, or should I say Sayana, that would be Thumb and Autumn was the other one. So Autumn is doing her best to sort of keep discipline, while Thumb is keeping a direct eye out around the area. Nothing happens in that hour it takes for the expedition to get back to you all. By the time you get back, you can see, like, the main body of the force is there. Specifically, the Invicta seems to have strode a little further ahead, made it faster pace to catch up with you guys. That thing is fast. That thing is faster than a turtle by a fair margin. It doesn't get tired. All it takes is someone to go underneath there and re-spin up the twine, the big tension spring they have that runs the thing. So, yeah, it's basically a clockwork battleship. Yeah, so eventually this heavy, rattling wooden ship, really, on these strange ambling legs comes clambering up to you all, and from the very top of it, you can see a familiar face peeking over as Preston from the command deck shouts down, "Ahoy there, mateys! How y'all doing? You okay? I heard from a certain someone you might have had some run-in with the locals." And you can see Tom poke his head up next to him and sort of wave.
You said Tom?
Yes.
You mean Cole?
Cole. Yes, you're right. It's Cole.
Okay,
Cole
cool. Just making sure. I was confused. Like, wait, we sent Tom
you're
too?
Right, you're right. Because Tom was there.
No,
Cole.
I would never let my Tom go off on his own like that.
You're right. It was Cole. Sorry. I was literally... It's because I altered his profile over here on my notes just a second ago. Fucking reading the same thing. So, yes, it would be Cole. He pokes his head out and sort of waves. Clearly okay. And he waves his old hammer, by the way, which appears to have finally been fixed. So he's quite content. Preston and his crew jump down, and you can see that there's a number of pretty hard-worn Marines. All of them, and I mean Marines as in actual, like, ship-mounted Marines, jump down, all of them with, like, harpoons, a couple of them with actual swords and daggers, one with what appears to be a repeating crossbow, and they're all just kind of, like, jump down. Preston jumps down and slowly approaches. So, everyone all right? No one got seriously hurt, I hope?
No. Go ahead.
I don't think I had any injuries, so I think we're all fine on my side.
Preston nods, clearly happy to see you're okay, and then turns over to you, Dukan. What about your big friends? Everyone all right?
Nothing too serious. If you have a medicine mouse, we could use one.
I have a sawbones. McKinley, get down here! And behind him, you can see one mouse with a little, what looks like a simple knit hat and little blue and white rings jumps down. He's got a little wooden box, and carved into the box, it's a little symbol of a mouse, the same mouse you guys see in that icon that lets you choose a complication. And he just sort of runs over and just gives a little salute, has a little pair of monocles that seem to slide up and down on a pair of glasses. The little bifocals he can flip on and up and down. All right, show me to your wounded. I'll take care of him. Promise I'll use the fine needle, not the big one.
He may need the big needle.
And I point him over to to my tortoise.
Right. Just reaches in and he pulls out a needle about like half the size of his forearm, connected to a thing of twine, and begins walking towards the ship. I'm going to make a quick roll for his medicine mouse. Let's see what we get. Okay. So you hear some loud yowling in the distance as Preston turns to the two of you and continues speaking. So then, Are we pressing onward or what have you? Because as I understand, there's a settlement coming along, at least according to my maps, if you want to take a look.
If Dukan has learned anything, if you are, if one is acquiring opposition, one is headed in the right direction. Yes, let us see this map.
Excellent. Well then, come aboard. And as he walks back, you can see there's a set of nets thrown over the side, boarding nets, and the Marines slowly, at least half of them anyway, begin to walk their way upwards, backwards against the forest, holding their harpoons out, going up one-handed. As Preston climbs up leisurely, the guy with the repeating crossbow, and it's like a heavy repeating crossbow. This is like a Monster Hunter style arrangement where he's got this giant wooden contraption he's carrying underslung. And he actually stays behind with a couple of them, sort of guarding the ground where you guys were from. And he takes you guys up onto the bridge. Into that same room you've had a bunch of meetings at. It's weird not seeing the matriarch here, but Gwendolyn's on her own tortoise. And, you know, the Invicta kind of made fast speed to catch up with all of you. So the rest of the expedition wouldn't have to motor. And they could still maintain a little bit of a spread out formation. On it, I will drag you all to the new updated map of the frontier.
Ooh,
as of today.
yeah.
Yeah. So, as you look all the way down at the very bottom, you can see how far you've all come. Quite a lot of days, actually. Looking at this thing, I believe last check, you all were 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, something like on the order of about a month and a half now, out from the initial start of your journey. And that's not even factoring in the time you all took to stop at locations. So just sheer distance alone. And as you can see on the map, there's the little blue tortoise symbol on a little, what appears to be carved out piece of wood, almost like a checker piece that's been getting slowly moved across the map. You can see there's like a little nail in it, so every time they move it, they just sort of take it out and nail it back into its new location. And ahead of you is nailed into the map a little red owl icon next to the word Vinecrawl, to which Preston points his fuzzy mouse hand at and indicates very clearly that'd be where we're heading. Regardless of whether or not you're all moving against the foxes or the owls, that's going to be your next stop, at least according to what we learned at Serpent's Run. Which I have to admit, it's good to see in green now as opposed to red.
Why do the owls have a settlement so far out?
Well, past Serpent's Run, everything's technically beast territory as far as we understand. We're technically in the beast kingdoms. This area is just contested and far enough away where, for the most part, the owl and the fox basically beyond or approaching Serpent's Run lost interest. From what we heard from our friend Cole, then he pauses. Not your Cole, as he points up to you, Dukan. The other Cole, the one who's now governing Serpent's Run. What we heard from Cole and Greenfang is that the Vicar did do one thing right, which was build enough forces to keep everyone else at bay and away from that place. So the owl and the fox didn't feel like bothering themselves with trying to take Serpent's Run. Everything after that, they're constantly feuding over. So every settlement's technically one or the other, owl or fox's den. This is just one of the furthest out, and happens to be claimed by the owls. As I understand, it's because it's in the trees. It's not actually on the ground. So, of course, the owls would have dominion there.
Dukan kind of like pauses. He does that little thing where his arms are just long enough for him to like fold it right here and then like stick the other one up to like rest his chin on. And he does like a And then he points at Vinecrawl on the map.
This place is contested. Will they greet us as friend or foe?
Saw the way they treated us last night. Clearly foe.
Well, that's the trick, really, isn't it? They might not treat the Mouse expedition as friends, But so far, we've hardly proved to be their enemies yet. And they have attacked you from what I heard. But that could be a roving recon force. If you all introduce yourselves as travelers, not as Mouse Guard or Mouse Expedition, you might be able to get into the settlement and find out a little bit of the ground. If we want to take the Owlsers to the Fox Den, we'll have to take Vinecrawl, or very least pass it safely.
These mountains to the west.
And he points to like this little spot where there's like a distinct. I mean, if the map, I'm assuming the map is accurate, that there's
Yes.
like a smaller mountain in between two mountains with like a valley in between the three.
Oh yeah, that area there? Yeah.
We should move the bulk of our forces to somewhere safe. If they are in the trees, our tortoises will only be large targets.
You're not entirely wrong, but we do have a couple of issues with that. So, the reason why they own Vinecrawl is because, as far as we understand, the Owl's been able to make their play there. But the mountains are not much different. As far as I understand, the Owl has claimed dominion over all beasts of the wing across the entirety of this northern part of this small continent. So we won't be able to go anywhere that won't have the high ground on us, that we won't have to worry about an owl attack.
That's a problem.
As far as I understand it, the forest at least offers us the cover of trees and the unlikelihood that they'll be able to engage in massed assaults on us. Only smaller owls and hawks with smaller wing size will be able to attack us there. The sort of thing we can beat off, hopefully, with an attack. It won't help us much against their mouse auxiliaries, though. Or bats. Everything's risk at this point now, my friends.
This may be trite, but Dukan suggests a weaselly approach. Sayana and I take forces, infiltrate their town. The rest of the expedition comes from below. We slaughter those that stand in our way. Those that simply want to live in peace, well, they are free from the tyranny of the owl now.
So you propose to take it like we took Serpent's Run, then? Force recon, then force.
Different this time. If they are in the trees, it will be harder to infiltrate and exfiltrate. We take one large mass force, masquerading as travelers. I will lead a strike force to remove the current leadership.
Presence.
Sion will obviously look after the rest and hold down a foothold for the rest of our forces. That's what she's best at.
I don't think that just my troop can take on an entire village when we'll be on their home turf in in trees in the air where my men are not used to fighting.
But trees will benefit. They will provide blockades, chokeholds. They will also provide cover.
It's not
Look.
enough mice. I won't do it with just my men alone.
You can see Preston's looking between the two of you, scratching his chin, and occasionally at his eye patch, and moving it out of the way so he can sort of blink the eye that still is perfectly fine under it. And looking between the two of you, you realize he's actually not very comfortable making this call of his own. He's technically a mercenary. He's been hired to this task. So he realizes he went out first because he could get out here fastest, but he also realizes there's a limit to what he can and can't approve. Let me make a roll for him and see what he can do. See what he feels comfy doing. God damn, with my mixed rolls today.
That's crazy.
He sort of taps his fingers again. All right. Here's what I'll do. I'll do for you all, anyhow. I'm going to go and I'll get my Marines. I have a total of about 10 of them. I'm willing to loan to you. Take them, Sienna.
I
Use them
appreciate
in
it.
good faith. The rest will stay here, and when my forces arrive, along with the rest of the expedition, I'll reclaim my mercenaries, and you can have proper Mouse Guard fighters assisting you. I don't think it's a bad option. At the very least, I would advise taking a lay of the land before you commit to it. Should be coming up within another mile, so if you get a chance to rest before we head out, now'll be the time. And disguising yourself as travelers isn't a bad option. I would just, then he pauses and sort of looks over at you, Dukan. I would like you to consider the fact that in these lands, weasels are not often free. Are you sure you'd be comfortable with describing or portraying yourself as such? Or you be comfortable wearing a mask?
Dukan wears no mask.
Kind of like nobly and proudly, like puts his head up like as if like there's a wind blowing against it.
Full anime moment.
Even though we're in like an enclosed area.
It's the exterior of a ship. There's a chance for a little breeze to blow by thematically and lift your cloak a little bit. You're a funeral then, big guy. But just be aware, most of the weasels that'll come through here will be bonds weasels into Midnight's Empire. And even then, I'm not particularly sure how welcome they would be. You could also portray yourselves as traders of a different sort. Just oddballs. I leave it to you to decide what your disguise is going to be. I'm not good for sneaking. I prefer my engagements the old-fashioned way, with cannon and manpower. And he just sort of gestures at the ship around him. Well, mouse power, anyhow.
Dukan believes the tortoises may be a liability this further inland, the ones that we bring, if we are to go ahead. What will become of them if they are left down at the base of the trees? Dukan does not wish to see harm befall them.
Well, I can't speak for all of them, but as I understand, the tortoises that are here eventually plan to leave them. They plan to leave the settlers and go out and do their own thing. This is as much a migration for them as it is for us. So, if they're of no further use, especially once we settle in either the Fox's Den or the Owl's Roost, assuming we can dislodge them, then they were planning on going free and doing whatever.
Yeah, I mean, like, in this particular
Oh,
case that we're dealing with right here, me and Sienna, if we take our tortoises ahead, I'm worried about what will happen to them if we
gotcha.
leave them at the base of the trees.
that's
And it's
fair.
going to be very obvious that we are associated with the Mouse Guard because we would also be on big fuck-off tortoises.
Yeah, that's fair. The tortoises could always walk with me in the Invicta. I'd gladly keep them safe. They're smart enough to know what to do. Again, your call. They're your charge. If you leave them in my care, I promise they'll be safe.
I think that's the move. What do you think, Natalie?
It's fine.
All right then. I'll make sure that both Garrow and Burgild and Sethany are taken care of. In the meantime, gather your troops. Take whatever you like from my larder. It's all yours to take. Lord knows I'll have all your supplies on your tortoises, so won't eat you out of house and home.
Perhaps we disguise as merchants or something.
At this point, Preston just sort of nods and sort of gestures to the back of the room, and you can see in the back, at the very because this isn't just like the captain's planning room. This is his actual room. He has like one of the only himself rooms here. The Invicta's a very small ship. Most of the crew sleep on the outer deck, like literally wrapped in cloth or like unused sailcloth. And some sleep underneath the decking if they're lucky, but they don't consider themselves lucky because of how loud it is under there with all the mechanisms. So he has an actual bed chamber here. You guys are just in sort of like his foyer room. And he gestures to the back where you can see there is a set of chess spilling over with fancy robes and cloth. Take whatever you might need to dress yourselves up. My treat. Except the hat. The hat's mine. And he goes back and quickly snags a very long black hat with a very fluffy, feather in the top of it. Sort of dusts it off. Never know when you're going to need a backup hat. He just pushes it underneath his bed. The rest is all yours, though, to flip through as you like. Lord knows, tastes are probably different out here anyway. My fashion would probably be considered garish. Might work for a bunch of eccentric traders, though. So, he's going to leave you two to organize your troops as you'd like at this point. Or to reflect with your own lieutenants, or to get any assistance you might require. He's basically opened the Invictus stores and all of its assets to you. So you will have whatever weaponry or whatever tools you might need.
Might be better if we go separately, because you're going to be sticking out like a sore thumb without a proper disguise.
This
Don't
makes
want
sense.
to arrive and immediately have my mice killed because there's a free weasel wandering in our party.
Very good. You take your mice. Dukan and his weasels will come in from the trees. We will sneak into their leader's place tonight and assassinate him.
I thought that was the plan all along, and then you changed it to us arriving together, but I think that this makes more sense.
Very good.
All right. So it sounds like you're going for a two-pronged attack. Infiltrators and then actual assassins from the trees. This is going to be interesting.
We're the trees.
God damn it.
Before Dukan leaves, Sayana just turns and goes, if there's a mouse leader who rides a bat, leave that one for me. I have words for him.
You say that to me?
Yeah, because you're going after the leaders. If that mouse that she knocked off the bat in the battle last night is there, she wants him alive. I want to talk to him with my fists.
Dukan can do this.
It's okay if we rough him up a bit. Just don't kill him.
Okay.
Dukan just kind of smiles. Kind of like his brow furrows a little bit, like he's thinking about yeah, I think okay, that'll work. He turns and walks out.
Nobody flies around on a bat shooting at my men and then refuses to come down and fights me, and then when I knock them off their bat, they run away. Unacceptable.
Calling me a coward? You jackass? All right. That's fair. So I figure you two would probably... Well, okay. Let's make some rolls with this one. This is going to be interesting. I've never actually... So we're going to be doing conflict rolls for this to represent what you folks will be using as your method of attack. Or specifically, I should say, your methods of, I suppose, infiltration would be the proper term here. So, looking at this, you're sneaking in. It sounds like what you're doing is, Sayana, you're using maneuver, or the equivalent, or a feint, probably a feint, to try to sneak your way into this, into Vinecrawl, on foot, disguised as mice traders. And it sounds like Dukan, you're coming in on a feint to attack. So okay.
Sasuke Uchiha in this bitch, bro.
Yeah, you are from the Leaf Village. Getting literally, you're gonna be coming in from the trees, from the canopy, to attack.
Yeah, exactly.
So if that's the case, then I could see either a maneuver or a feint. I'd say faint for you for sure, Ducon. Absolutely. This is going to represent the entire thing. I'm not going to be like, one roll will govern the entire infiltration of Vinecrawl. That would be very shitty and anticlimactic. This is just going to set the tone for the rest of the engagement. So, Natalie, this will be a maneuver. Because of the fact that you have access to all of Preston's resources and all of Preston's clothing on the ship, you could use those as weapons of wit to craft yourself disguises, I think, pretty comfortably. And at very least to, like, cover up the cloaks and the gear you would normally wear. You're already kind of rocking a pretty boppin' outfit, as I recall. Sienna looks pretty fresh at all times.
She fancy.
Yeah, so now you're just kind of, like, making everyone look like they're matching you. Entertainingly, Sienna's never really been, like, an archetypal mouse guard in the first place. So you could probably get away with just, like, not claiming you're a mouse guard and you'd be fine.
Mm-hmm.
But everyone else now has to look as sick as you do. So I will say this will give you an additional 2 dice of success on the roll, or 2 dice, and I'll give you an extra success on a successful roll. So that means that looking at what you've got, we have player characters, looking at your character sheet. Okay. So looking at this, I'm going to have you're going to make me a scout roll. Do you have any wises you would like to use to benefit you? Because right now you're looking at your base scout of 2 with plus 2 dice added onto the pool for the disguises.
I'm thinking rocky terrain. Like, one can use that to make it look like we're somewhat familiar with the area. We're not stumbling around lost. It's like, oh yes, here's that one village we visited a few years back. I knew it was right in this area.
What's it called? Clawvine or something? Vine Vineyard?
Vineyard crawl? Pub crawl? Was it pub crawl?
Pub crawl,
Oh.
That's it.
Pub crawl. All right, I like that. That's an excellent suggestion. Okay, so I will definitely give you rocky terrain wise. So that'll give you that'll give you a pool of 8 dice. I will roll my own pool of dice in opposition to reflect their ability to observe what you are, and I'll keep that a secret. I'll roll that mechanically. Because I just found an ass load of dice the other day that I had hidden for a while in my pool. And Derek, on the other hand, you're going to need to make me... This is going to be a scout roll for you as well. And what would you want to justify with it? Let me take a look at your results, Natalie. Okay.
I have 1 success.
1 success. Okay. Also, by the way, I gotta say, finding those dice was the perfect opportunity for me to put them all into a particularly nice little case that I very much enjoyed. So thank you for that.
Cute.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Okay, perfect. All right, then. So that's recorded on my end. Derek, what are you going to argue for? And Sienna, you can mark that down as a success ostensibly. I don't want you to know whether it was a success or failure. Just consider it a success for the purposes of progression.
Hunter, if not nature. Hunter, because I am literally stalking prey. In Homeboy's mind, he is doing what weasels do. He is finding the target that he's looking for, and he's taking them out. I would say that is an argument for either Hunter or that's the same argument I would make for both Hunter or nature.
Okay. Hunter tends to be dedicated more towards hunting larger beasts, and you're not wrong. It is perfectly fine to use it in this capacity, but I would say it's a little bit more overt. It's like you are stalking prey. However, nature, that feels very accurate to me.
Cool.
Weasels are known to be duplicitous and cunning, and as I recall, your weasel nature includes, and I need to make sure of this, like underhanded shit is like basically in your, literally here, aggressive, gloating, clever, and burrow stealer. We'll say this is clever.
This is burrow stealing, and I'm breaking into his house to fucking gank him.
I mean, that is also a very fair fucking point.
Oh Jesus!
I
What
think
is our
that's
luck
fair.
tonight?
Yeah. Whoa.
What is our luck tonight? What the hell?
It's kind of all over the place, really. I'm not against it. It's just kind of surprising.
We haven't done any other rolls, so it's only been bad luck for us so far.
Yeah.
I mean, you guys haven't seen my rolls. They've been pretty abysmal, too.
At least it's all of us.
Yeah, it is. Okay. Okay. So, Tukan, you can mark that down as a success. Again, I'm not going to tell you guys whether it's true success or just success enough for you to get progression, because that's how this game works, and you need to know what it is like right now.
So my nature goes up.
Nice. That's
Mine
fucking
becoming
good.
the better weasel. Yeah.
Huzzah. So I have just a couple of last questions to ask you two before we move into this next segment. First, who's taking whom? Derek, is Dukan only taking the weasels?
Yep.
Or are you also taking your Cole Blackrock apprentice?
Oh shit! This would be really good exposure for him. Or experience, not exposure. That's what you pay artists. I'm just kidding.
No, it's all right. I just like the idea of Dukan coming back and being like, "This mouse here did excellent work for me on this project. Deserves better pay." Like General Pound back in like a boardroom, like, the fuck is this weasel doing here?
Join the weasels. It'll be great exposure.
I think it'd be really good experience for him. This is really just weasel business, but he wants to be a weasel. He's got to be a weasel all the time, man. You can't turn the weasel off. You're just a weasel. Yeah, we're bringing Colt.
Okay. Sounds like you're saying you're taking Cole with you.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm down with it. I am all about this decision. I just wanted to know where they were going. And likewise, are you taking Thom with you, Sayana?
I'm taking all my men.
All your men? Okay, so that'd be Thom, Autumn, and your crew at this point up 12 mice.
And the mercenaries that Preston so generously lent us.
That is correct. I believe he has loaned you 8 Marines, so that would include...
You said 10, but...
10, you're right, it's 10. It's 10, one of them being a heavy gunner, the rest being all swashbucklers, that's right. So
Do you want to take any of the mercenaries, Dukan? Okay.
No, the fewer people I have, the better.
Okay.
That's a fair call. Okay. So, looking at all this then, and making sure I have all the dice I'm going to need, because I'm probably going to start needing a lot of dice very soon. Because that's how I can sense that's how this session is going to go.
I hope not.
I figure whether you guys are successfully sneaking or successfully stabbing, it's going to involve dice, so I should probably get a fair few out and ready to go.
Look, man, we've tried the diplomacy route. We tried to be diplomatic with Serpent's Run. We were like, well, let's go see what these guys are about. Maybe they're not all bad. No, they were all bad. All of them, but like
hey,
pockets.
Was okay.
No, that's what I'm saying. Except like pockets of people that were like, yeah, we hate how this is. We wish it was different. We were like, okay, you're cool. We're going to put you in charge. We're just cutting right through that. We're just getting to... We're just taking care of the bad people. We know there's bad people here. We're going to kill them, and we're going to replace them with good people.
Viva la revolution! All right, that's fair. Okay, then. So, going from there, then, I'm going to move this a little bit out of the way.
To be fair, this time they attacked us first. Otherwise, Sayana wouldn't be so keen to just rush in there and start taking over like this.
That's very fair. They did ambush you folks in the woods on the road with no preamble, so that is a very fair point. Okay. So, I figure preparations would take the better part of an hour. And the trip on Tortoise would have been about an hour, but it's going to be about an hour and a half now, at least. So 2.5 hours later, we're already in the daylight now. It is early. I'm going to assume that you guys got your rest on over the course of the night in shifts, which seems like the most reasonable solution. I don't feel like making us go like, so who slept when and where? We don't need the full, like, who did guard. I presume you're competent enough to do it.
Uh-oh.
So,
You're roboting out.
Yeah, you're
Everything okay?
glitching that.
Fuck. Hold on. Let me see. It's probably just a lag spike. How's
It
that?
seems to be fine now.
Okay. I did nothing, by the way.
Yeah, shit just happens.
Yeah, it is what it is. All right, so okay. Gonna take you guys about 2.5 hours to get to actually where Vinecrawl is. So, looking at this place, let's pop in advance. So, you all hike from where our little marker is here, leaving behind Garo and Sedney, who both of whom sort of just watch as your crews go. You just hear a wah as they make this sort of like sonorous kind of goodbye call, knowing they'll hopefully see you again soon. And they watch you walk off. So, do you two travel together until you get closer and then sort of split into separate
Nah.
groups?
I'm immediately splitting off the road with my weasels and Cole.
All right, that's perfectly fair. I am going to want a scout roll, Derek, because you're going to be going off-road for this. So that is perfectly good for this. Sayana, you're perfectly good. I don't think we're going to need a roll for this. Your roll already covers it. So let's see what we got.
Dude, what is this luck tonight, bro?
3 5s and 2 1s. It's a success. It is a success.
I'll take it.
It's a narrow success, but a success nonetheless. So, as you two break up and head into your separate directions, Dukan, you and the other 2 weasels, including now Gremble, who has a fresh set of stitches wrapped up in a big, pretty clean bandage, which then got immediately covered by leaves and a layer of like protective mud to keep it from getting infected. You remember when you first saw him, like, your weasel friend had like an arm coated in blood. The Sawbones is a good worker. He does not have much of a bedside manner. More of a, this'll only hurt for a minute. And you realize when Preston offered his Sawbones, he was literally offering the dude who does amputations on his ship. Thankfully, Gremble still has his arm, so that's a great sign.
That's good. He's gonna need
And
that.
you all move quickly and at speed. I'm going to make a little roll for Cole here. Okay, he's actually doing pretty good. So Cole keeps up with you all, scampering along on the tree roots through the brush as you push forward, and it's pretty dense out here. It's a large forest, and the area off the main path is coated in fallen leaves and a little bit of dry brush here and there, twigs. It's familiar terrain for you. You remember very much this being, it almost looks like the Mouse territories. You would swear it was the Mouse territories if it weren't for the fact that you know you are many leagues away from that. And so, Sayana, describe to me how you've disguised your crew. Like, how flamboyant you folks looking? Are you looking like normal, or what's your disguise?
We pick the least flamboyant clothing in the trunk, and sorry, Preston, we dirt them up a little bit, you know, kind of roll around in the grass a bit, a little bit of mud here and there. We want it to look like we've been traveling for a while, not like we just all put on a fresh set of clean clothes. And we'll borrow the trunk to put a few odds and ends in there, some of the nicer clothing to look like we might be selling that, along with other, maybe some medical equipment, some meat or some type of alcohol.
All right, that's fair. Yeah, no, that's all very possible. I think the Marines would sort of follow what you guys are doing. And they'd kind of strip themselves partly down, so they just sort of have the rags of most of their clothing just tucked around their waist, tied up with rope. So they kind of just look like manservants carrying this thing of alcohol with them. They probably have it wrapped up with a couple of poles, so they sort of just group carry it together. So it's a good disguise for them too, because they're able to strap most of the weapons to the underside of the alcohol into a satchel, so they can just quickly drop it and grab their blades and get to it if they need to.
I do make
Um,
sure that everyone has at least one type of weapon hidden on their actual body, just in case we're not able to grab it from the trunk or wherever else we have the weapon stashed.
Thankfully, while this might not be the mouse territories, mouse life does sort of necessitate being armed on the road. So it's not unreasonable for your party to carry swords and staves and the odd spear and hello skags and skags. Whatever you might need to defend yourself. Although I would say one skag is more than enough to defend a party. So as you are, so you're able to sort of get yourselves. You look pretty decent. Like overall, your party has your group of mice, who at this point number, I want to say 24 strong. You've got a pretty sizable band, a small war band of mice here. More than enough to, in many cases, like this would be considered vast overkill in the mouse territories. Usually when there's a crisis in a town, they send like 2 to 3 mouse guard. You're leading an actual fucking squad. Like this is kind of nuts. A regiment is what it is. So in this instance, you all pretty well equipped, but you look the part, which is travelers. And so you go ahead, and the path itself is pretty clear. It's pretty well trodden, actually, you can tell. Despite the fact that the beast territories are ruled over by many predators, you get the distinct feeling that the beasts themselves have built a bureaucracy around predation, because predation openly and nakedly in the wild is not good for empire building. That destroys trade very quickly if, like, at any point one of your subjects might swoop down and eat a trade caravan about to sell a bunch of stuff that you've mined, or purchase a bunch of medicine you needed. So far you haven't really encountered any real threats of predators on the road. Now you make me a scout roll, Natalie. I know you guys are going to be making that roll a lot today. Just a heads up on that.
With Rocky Terrain?
Yes, I think that's fair.
Is Rocky out here?
I'm right behind this tree over here. Fucking Sylvester Stallone walks out
There
and
we
punches one of your
go.
mice. Whoa!
My luck is turning around.
That is significant. Definite pass. So, as you are walking along, Sienna, about like an hour and a half, and about like an hour into the walk, you start realizing you are being watched from the tree line again. But this time, not just from the bushes below, but the trees above. And I want to say, like, as you get closer to cresting this one ridge, from a couple of the bushes nearby, a couple of mice wearing familiar fur cloaks pop out. These mice, all clad in this red fox fur with white paste on their faces, sort of leap out, daggers drawn, begin to chitter each other in their own language, and then one of them steps forward and speaks, "Your goods, trader. Goods are your life." And sort of pulls the blade out, gets a little closer. And then you hear a thwang, and the mouse goes and falls over. And you see a dart in the side of the mouse's head. And the other mice in the fox fur all just like look at each other and just scatter into the brush. And above, you can hear whispering, and then eventually a voice call over. "Oh, travelers! Are you on your way to Vinecrawl by any chance? Would you like an escort?"
That would be most appreciated, seeing as how some of the other mice in this area are far less civilized than you and your group appear.
And as the whistling comes from above, you can see mice move out of the bushes, and you aren't surprised. Like, you got a pretty good beat on them. You knew you were being watched, and it was by multiple mice. You didn't realize they were different groups, but clearly one group was better entrenched than the other.
That's why Sayana was like, "Oh god, not these guys again too. It's not enough we're going straight into the owl den."
So, after a couple of seconds, you see a number of these mice coming out of the bush, and leading them appears to be 2 mice. One is clad in this leather strap harness with this pair of what appear to be hawk feathers into the back of their cloak, sticking up almost like hussar wings of cavalry, of Estonian cavalry. And around their waist is a set of glowing, bright, bioluminescent blue orbs. Um, and as they sort of step forward, and you can see they have like this little strapped monocle, almost like an eye patch, like strapped to their head. They just move it up, and you can see below the eye is a little bit pink from lack of sunlight, but also maybe because the lens was bright red. Standing up next to them is a familiar mouse to you,
I knew
one
it.
that you saw just the other day. The makeup is very hard to miss. With
Got my
a very
eye on.
Yep, that pale white paint and this almost like an owl-like face with slightly darkened eyes around it. It's very barn owl-esque. But this time you can see that they're not clad in blue feathers. Now, that feather on their back, you recognize it from your training. That's an owl feather, actually. And they are clad in a gray cape with a heavy crossbow. And they sort of step forward. They don't seem to make any sign that they recognize you in any way, shape, or form. They just
I'm
seem to stand there
very
quietly.
unrecognizable.
You did dress yourselves up, disguise yourselves up, and well, you can't really see if they are clearly not making any outward signs they recognize you. No one's going like, "It's those guys, get them!" Like no one's jumping on you.
No nudging or whispering to each other.
No. Like one of them does seem to be like intrigued by the way you all look. They haven't seen anyone in these parts dressed like you, but another one of them sort of like nudges them and chitters back and says something along the lines of like, "Hey, don't be rude." And
It's
the
not their
traitors.
fault that they're fashionably disinclined.
Yeah. Pretty much, yeah. Like you get the feeling like the guy who asked was the new recruit, and they weren't going to listen even if he made a point. And so the first owl that emerged though with the two hawk feathers, or the first I should say mouse and stuff with the two hawk feathers, steps forward and bows. Apologies, we're still feuding with the foxes, bonds mice for this territory. You are safely within the domain of the owl. Please follow us to town. Might I ask your names as you all begin to walk? And sort of just like looks at you. And even though he has a very stern face, you get the feeling it's just because he's on duty. It's not because he dislikes you. It's just this is his job.
I'm Sierra, not Sayana.
Jesus Christ.
Well, she's not going to give them her real name.
That's fair.
I wouldn't expect you to. Also didn't expect you to keep him like one letter away from me.
That's why it's easier to remember and respond to.
By the way, I've added in your character's contacts Sierra, the alter ego. So
Sierra the Large instead of
yes,
Sayana.
yes, Sierra the Large. Fixing that right now. There we go. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, that's fine. She'll just introduce herself as Sierra, and Tom is John.
Very well. Very well. And Autumn would just bow and she would introduce
She's
herself.
Summer.
Yep, I was gonna say Summer. You read my mind.
Yes.
So yeah, no, she bows.
Great minds think alike.
And he would sort of look at you and nod at each of you in turn. And might I ask what your business this far into our territory is? I assume trading, but I don't know if there's anything further than that. It would make it easier for me to, when we get back, properly register your passing. Make sure that if you go between towns, you'll be actually expected, hopefully, at the next one.
So long as we sell all of our wares here, then there's no need to go further.
Hmm. And he looks back and sees the 10 Marines all carrying the huge thing of ale, and he just sort of makes a sly smile. Something tells me you won't have to worry about selling that in Vinecrawl. I think there's a fair few folks willing to have a good time. At least at
Quite
the
a
cost of a
relief.
little bit of gold.
Mhm. Excellent. My men are reluctant to go much further, so that will be a relief to us all.
Good. Well, it's my pleasure then to welcome you to Vinecrawl. And just ahead of the road, just like at the top of the little hill you were on, he just moves aside a branch, and you can see ahead of you this. And if I could get this thing to open, please tell me it loaded.
I should have put the Marines in the casket of Trojan horse style.
Oh my
And we
god.
get inside, and all these muscular mice just burst out. There's no wine here, just
What?
mice.
Just ripped ass lethal mice.
Scaring people.
The image to me is that they would have just drank their way through the thing.
If they're Marines, probably.
I mean, yeah, no, I say that with all the love in the world for them. Grandpa was one, so like I can't badmouth those guys, but yeah, no, probably. Yeah, so you know, they all just sort of give their nod, and they're doing their own thing. As you get to the top of this hill, I finally found it. He moves aside this branch and reveals ahead of you this beautiful copse of trees, like going onwards, almost like pine trees, kind of. And if I can make this a little bigger, there we. A little smaller than that, please. Perfect. There we go. You see this sprawling set of trees going upwards, overgrown with moss and fungus, and on each of these little like fungus protrusions, you see a little set of doors on each one. Then connecting all of them are these black wires and ropes and platforms being moved back and forth on hinges. And the entire thing seems to be above ground. It appears as though as if its greatest defense against the foxes is simply being at least 15 feet off the ground. And that's in real height. You're a mouse less than 4 inches tall. So it's pretty high up there. It appears as though as if daring and mouse dexterity is the only thing that keeps mice from falling to their deaths, or at least to their mild inconveniences, because you're pretty small, you kind of bounce. Kind of just boing. But yeah, it's unlike the picture that I have not had a time to completely finish. It is sprawling with mice at the moment. You can hear the little platforms back and forth moving along, people shouting at each other along them. It's pretty bustling, actually. I think this is a great moment for us to cut over to you, Dukan. Have you been watching from the shadows, or have you been advancing on your own side path?
I trust Cyan. I've been advancing on the side path. I don't want there to be. I want to get as much distance between us as possible because I know that they're going to have eyes everywhere.
That's fair. So, this is where you're going to make me a hunter roll, Derek.
Yay! I can do that. Fireball.
Ooh, let me count this. And that is... Okay. So, I gotta tell you, buddy. I'm actually really glad you rolled that high.
That's good.
Because over here, I rolled so fucking close. I really did. I rolled 5 successes
God
and then a
damn.
1.
Nice.
So well done. Check that off as a success. I think we can put some
Woo.
tension music on if you want. Because you're
Alright.
officially in tension land now, buddy.
I thought I had tension music on.
You are.
That is fun. That's
Yeah, I can hear it now. There we go. Yeah,
Okay.
we are on the max tension music. So
I was
as
like,
you
I
can
was
see-
tense.
Yeah, you have every reason to be, my friend. As you've snuck along this side, you've kind of been like half between like crawling and sprinting, where you have access to like roots and stuff, where there's not going to be any noise of you scampering about on it. But through the brush, you've been walking quietly, then on the trees scampering, and at one point, as you're running along, your keen eyes, your smart little snoot, get a smell, and something from downwind hits you, and you're mice and scent of guano and stale straw and feathers, and you realize, oh shit, it's owls. It's the owl's mice. Like, there's nothing else that smells like that. And you sort of, how do you address this? Like, how do you? I'm assuming you're trying to keep a low profile.
Yeah, I put up like a little teeny tiny closed fist. I'm sorry, every time the advent of my teeny tiny weasel arms pops up, it makes me laugh.
It is a very adorable image that you have this big, like, noodly serpentine, like wyvern-like body, and like an arm like 1/6 the size.
Barely comes up over my shoulder, like.
Yeah, exactly.
Hold up your closed fist.
We are close.
Immediately, the other weasels nearby just stop and sort of hackle up. And Cole, next to you, points at a tree ahead of you and goes, I think they're trying to scout on the ground below. And you can see it following where he's pointing. And he's clearly picking up on what you're doing. Yeah, he's getting good, because he actually managed to pick out a mouse with a crossbow hanging out in the trees. And one of the ones with a very specific, that's where the guano smell is. You thought it was like charcoal, like a coal, or it's like chalk and mud. There appears to be a little bit of guano mixed into that too, and like the face paint. And it's just sort of sitting there, watching quietly. Occasionally, you see it like reach down and grab something that's wrapped in a leaf and just take a bite of it and put it back down again, and keep scanning. Basically, being sentry. And from what you can tell, actually doing a pretty good job of it. They're pretty competent. Next to it appears to be a bat, which is just sort of sitting there, squeaking, vibing on the branch next to it. And you can see on its back what appears to be a harness with a handle and a rope attached to it that's designed to sort of let the mouse just grab onto it and glide away if they need. So with Cole pointing out where it is, you could probably get around if you go above them and literally up the tree and try to scale across the canopy above. It's riskier, but you would get around it completely.
There's no way that a bat's just going to change its loyalties that fast, Derek.
Push the mouse off!
You're on our side now, little bat. No. Okay. Yeah, we'll go up and over them. First, Dukan would like to breathe in deep to catch their scent and kind of try to memorize it to hopefully help with rolls in the future with his wolf snoot.
Okay. That's very fair. So if you're employing your wolf snoot, then yeah, you have checked it and used it. Consider that done. I will keep an eye on that. You did sniff them out, so you got a scent in. You got the scent pretty clearly. It's a very distinct scent. You get the feeling that it's specific to this type of mouse, or this type of bonds mouse. From what you've seen, it almost seems like the predator empires categorize their troops in loose groupings or designations. Not unlike the mouse guard, where you'll have the heavy escavaliers who walk around with the full plate and the shield and the sword, and they're basically just little mousy juggernauts. And other ones who are actual cavaliers who ride on the backs of birds or hares. Others that are archers. Many who are just scouts. They do the same thing where they train them en masse. You've noticed though you haven't seen any troops mice. The closest you've seen is these bonds mice who wear these feathery cloaks and use crossbows, but they're hardly what you would consider regulars. They're all irregular guerrilla warfare specialists, it seems. So there's no real committed force. And then you realize they're fighting on behalf of owls and falcons and hawks, animals that don't need massed bodies to provide force. They are tactical weapons themselves. So they're sort of working around the vulnerabilities of them. And it suddenly snaps to you, oh, That's why they have archers. They can hang out in trees and pour fire down while the bigger birds swoop down and hurt people.
Yeah. Yeah, I
So
know that strat. Mass
yeah,
Force.
yeah. There you go. You know the drill. Yeah, same thing. It's pretty effective. You've seen this sort of thing happen before.
Bully
Crows
the shit out of
occasionally
people.
will at least in the mouse territories, will hover over fields, and if a mouse wanders into the field, they'll dive on that fucker.
Mm,
They will utterly attempt to kill them, and they'll take apart the field till they can.
yeah.
So
Monstrous aerial busted. OP. Just spam that shit and just
yeah.
bully the shit out of your enemy.
I need more Dragon Knights. I need more Dragon Knights. Why isn't it refreshing fast enough? Yeah, no, same sort of deal. So yeah, you managed to sneak all the way above and across the very topmost canopy of Vinecrawl, which as you're sort of sneaking up, you get a peek at this same sort of area in the distance, not more than maybe 15 minutes away for you, of just these many different trees coated in these fungus platforms. And you can see it's a large number. It's about as big as any mouse territory city would be. Several hundred, if not maybe even 1,000 mice. All just
Jesus.
vibing. Yeah.
In the hollows of these trees that are still living.
Yeah. I mean, in fairness, that's what you'd have to estimate. You're really not sure exactly how densely built up each tree is. It varies wildly.
That's fucking sick.
You're not even sure how many mice are in the mouse territory cities. You just have rough estimates from what the weasels were able to gather.
That's cool as hell.
Yeah.
Do these fungi look like they could support a weasel's weight?
Oh, easily.
Okay.
Easily. You can see even on one you can even see on one of these things a full on it appears to be a small hawk. A Cooper's hawk flies down in and lands comfortably on one of them. And you see all the mice on the platforms all go supplicant, and it sort of squawks a couple of things in its language, and then it flies off again. And the fungus seems to hold strong. You wonder if they might even have reinforced or cultivated it themselves to be really durable.
Makes sense. Okay. Well, I tell the boys to stay close. We're gonna be moving into position and striking. At least moving into a striking position as quickly as possible. Whenever Scion has provided us an opening, we're gonna strike.
Okay. We've been going for about an hour and a half. If you guys want to take a quick break.
Yes,
Yeah, that sounds
please.
good. Yeah, don't go anywhere, folks. We're going to take a quick 5 to 10. We'll be right back with more Malgard. Welcome back, folks. Welcome back. Thank you so very much for waiting. I surely do appreciate you. Before we get on into it, just so you know, we have our very own custom DMDM Studios dice case that you can get for yourself over on ko-fi.com/theshadysale. They hold a full set of 7 dice. They are beautiful. They absorb sunlight, and they can be used to cast necromancy spells with a +1 to your spell save DC and attack roll. Omni, what's good? Thank you, by the way, to thank you to Natisha of the Shady Sale and RPGN. Much love, guys. Omni, what's happening?
Besides absolutely just being in love with the super cool dice case, you should totally take a look at. Yeah, I'm actually So we're gonna pick up right where we left off. We're gonna flip over from your infiltrating of the canopy above Vinecrawl and flip back down to Sayana on foot. So, Sayana, you have been. It's been like pretty much about where we cut off is where you guys just last left off, and these owls, mice, which, as you hear them like chatting back and forth amongst each other, they refer to themselves as owlers, which is pretty straightforward. So you have the Vulpine who are sworn to the fox, and then the owlers who are sworn to the owl. And so that's what they call themselves anyway. They often use the term bonds mice, as you've recognized, to describe themselves. And as you're getting closer and you get onto like the lowermost level, you can see they have a bunch of heavy lift like winches on the bottom designed to lift things up into the tree canopy. And in addition to that, they have a number of little, what look like almost knothole doors. And you're familiar with this. Apple Loft, actually, and a number of other places you've been, including, if I can get this out, just to make sure. Yeah, I believe your settlement came from, and I'm just making sure I got this right. I believe you were from, not Apple Loft. What was the name of the village you were from again? The town you were from?
Something Gale. It's been
Not
a while.
Appledale. I'll look it up.
No.
But I remember that it was in like
See.
an area that's sort of enshrouded by hedges and in trees. It's a very common thing for you to see in the mouse territories. So
I want to say it was near the foot of a mountain.
Ivydale. That's what it was. It was
Ivydale, that's it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, you're very, like, this is very familiar to you. The entirety of Ivydale is in a very ivy-choked valley. And so you recognize this. Mice will often build their little cities and structures directly into nature as a means of protection. It's worked for them historically, and it offers them the most bang for as little buck as they have to pay out to build a civilization. And in this case, you get the feeling they've just sort of turned these trees into giant staircases. And the Bonds mouse that you first met, the one with the 2 hawk feathers on their back, just sort of gestures at the knothole in front of you and says, "I'm more than willing to let your people walk up the staircase. The winch can take care of your goods." And he pauses and looks at a couple of the Marines. "Wish to have a couple of your strong mice stay behind and watch the resources. Well, that's fair, too. It's safe to carry plenty up, but it's a little bit more unstable than it would be to go up the stairs themselves. A little less safe, if you wouldn't mind."
We'll be fine for now.
All right. Winch it up, and you can see a couple of mice nearby, and they're dressed relatively... They're decently dressed, I suppose. Like, simple white robes. Nothing too fancy. It looks like it's like off-white, like a very simple fiber kind of garb. Not quite silk, but could be in some places. Some kind of cotton, maybe, or possibly even down that's been properly like woven into clothing. Then they sort of just run over and bring a couple of ropes and begin to lash everything together to keep it stable. And a couple of the Marines just get onto the thing with the crate and sort of start riding it up as it clink, 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 clink goes up, inch by inch. As above, you can hear the sounds of mice pulling on a lever. And the Bonds mice goes in front and takes out a dagger, which you can see is actually toothed like a key, and slides it into the lock by the door, turns it, and the whole door comes open. He gestures for you to go ahead on in.
Gonna make a mental note of the mouse who has the key
Okay.
and make my way in.
Roger that. So, as you're walking up, there's a silence in the air, and you don't think that these mice are in any particular hurry to fill it. Though this also is very clearly the if you have any questions, ask it now of them kind of vibe you get from them.
So, are you taking me to the leader, or?
What? No, of course not. Do you have business with the leader? Or...
Different villages have different customs. Sometimes I'm taken to the person in charge. Other times it's their staff that deal with purchases.
Right. Of course. No. For the most part, our lord and baron tends not to be out and about and not bother themselves with our work. They come and go as they please. They leave it to the bondsmice to handle such affairs. For the most
Makes
part, if you
sense.
need anything, you can ask me. My name is Nolan. I'm the torch mouse.
Is this the one who had the key, or?
This is the one who has the key, and also very identifiable because he's the one with. If I can get this thing to open again. Come on, pop up. I know you're there. There we go. He's the one who doesn't just have the key on his the key dagger. He also is very recognizable as the one with the two feathers and the glowing orbs on his person.
Okay, what was his name again?
His name is Nolan. Noelan. Nolan.
Mhm.
I'm in charge of the bondsmice here, at least for now, in Vinecrawl. You have any questions, you can ask me.
Wonderful. Well, it has been a long journey, so I will go check on my men and make sure that they get ready to settle in, since we probably won't leave until tomorrow.
Of course. If you have any other questions, don't hesitate to ask us. My lieutenant here, and I'm going to just, again, take a quick peek at that. I like that. We'll go with it. My lieutenant here, Trevor, he'll be a liaison between us if you have any questions. He's what's referred to by us as a shot mouse. I hope you don't mind me dropping the parlance on you. I assume you're new here. I don't recognize your garb. What settlement are you from in the region, if I might ask?
I'm from Gauntlet.
Gauntlet. And he sort of like takes a pause, and a couple of the other bondsmice like look to each other for a second.
I said wrong.
I'm gonna let you make a roll fast for this one. Gonna assume this is a what do you have that would work for this? Make a circles roll for me. I think this would be appropriate for that.
From Serpent's Run.
You could if you want.
Yeah, that's fine. I already said it. I'll go with it.
Okay. That's 2 successes. So, yeah, you do realize that technically the Beast Empires and Gauntlet, not technically, they are, in fact, at war. It's a Cold War. They haven't committed to each other as the destruction of each other yet. But Gauntlet's been building this massive military force of mice and enslaving predators. And these folks are ruled by predators. They are opposite sides of the political spectrum. That said, you're also traders. So as merchants, you might not be as beholden to them. Even if you claim you're from Gauntlet, you could just say, oh, I've come from Gauntlet. And I'm from elsewhere. Serpent's Run would work. You could even say that you're from Gauntlet, but you have no love of Midnight.
That's what I was thinking. She's going to say, oh, you mean where I'm coming from most recently? That would be Serpent's Run. I was born in Gauntlet, but I have no fealty to them, nor have I been there in several years now.
And immediately all the other mice nearby relax. Like, they just, yo, that's fucking sick. Way to go, buddy. 16.
Ted, thank you, dude. 16
Ted,
months,
homie.
man. Much love, buddy. Much love,
Oh.
man.
Yeah, no, you see the number of like the bonds mice lower their crossbows. Like they didn't point them at you, but they kind of like brought them up to the ready when you mentioned gauntlet. They also like relax a little bit, like one of them sort of pass the other on the back, like see, I told you you'd be fine. And you can see Nolan like visibly relaxes as next to him. You can see that you can see Trevor just kind of like had gone immediately, like their hand to their belt, and you can see there's no dagger there. Instead, he has a quiver filled with heavy wooden quarrels. And you recognize the type of bow he's carrying. It's a siege crossbow. This thing isn't made for shooting like your average dude wandering about. This thing is made to punch through plate mail on a mouse and punch out the other side. They are designed to punch through shields. And so this is a weapon of open war. And as a result, the actual quarrel bolts that it shoots, like in terms of the equivalent size for us, they're big. They're about as wide as like a mag light to us, and sharpened with a steel stake. That's basically a dirk that he's shooting. And so he immediately, his hand goes away from his quiver. You see he'd already grabbed a quarrel and was getting ready to draw it, and he just lets his hand relax. His posture shifts slightly. And you can see he just sort of like wipes the back of his forehead a little bit, and his hand gets a little white from the face paint he has on. You apologize. Sorry,
you don't mind me saying, you all seem a bit on edge. Is that because of the other mice that you saved us from?
A hare, yes. It turns out that the fox appears to be making inroads attempting to conquer further out. We are relatively well protected here in Vinecrawl. The height gives us an advantage, and from where you're standing now, like emerging out onto this top platform above the stairs, you can see, like, yeah, you're a good 15 feet off the ground. That's not easily traversable by any means of a fox. We are allotted a degree of protection, but we've been lackadaisical in the past about our protection, and it has cost us many lives. You'll have to pardon my crew. My bonds mice are merely doing their best, and we have heard rumors of Serpent's Fall having been recently attacked. We've yet to hear any runners from them. You're in fact the first one from the city. Tell me, how fares the vicar? What happened to the mice who lived there?
All seemed fine when we were there, although it has been a bit of a slow journey for us. You see, we weren't in quite a rush to leave the area so soon. You know, Fox's Den being so close and everything. But as stated, if anything happened after we left, we have yet to hear of it.
And consider yourselves lucky. There's some sort of new force that Midnight appears to be massing. We hear he has armed himself with tortoises, clad in steel, wielding fire as a weapon.
Sienna just kind of rolls her eyes. That sounds very much like Midnight. One of the reasons you can see I have no inclination to go back to my so-called home.
A wise decision. I would advise you stay here, and in the future you may wish to not introduce yourself as being from Gauntlet, at least not initially.
Old habits.
An understandable one. We are where we come from, no matter where that place may be, even if it is only a memory. It's understandable. Just be cautious. The further north you go along this road, the less receptive they'll be to hearing that.
Well, as stated, as long as we're able to sell our wares, there's little point going further. This does seem like a fairly nice place, and you say it's well protected. Pardon me, but I don't see a whole lot of soldiers. But then again, I have no military mouse.
He smiles and says, "Let me show you something." And he walks over to the edge of the fungus platform. And from where you are, like, it looks perilously close to the edge, and you get the feeling like they don't care about heights. They're so disenchanted with heights, it does not bother them. And as you get closer, he sort of puts his hand on your shoulder and points up, and points into the canopy above. And like twice as high up as the settlement, you can see a tree barely big enough for
You're
like,
freezing it.
son of a gun. Still seeing me? Am I back? Am I back? Okay, hooray. So I just wiggle here waiting to load in.
The wiggling seemed to help.
So I just gotta wait for my PC appears to enjoy the wiggling. So yes, you can see that as he gets closer to the edge and points up above the settlement, like another 15 feet above where the settlement tends to be. And around twice the height up, you can see a bunch of notches, thank you, Nares, carved into the tree. Barely big enough for one mouse. In some cases, like slightly larger ones, where there's like 2 to 3 mice, and you even see occasionally bats clinging to the sides. And on each of them, you can see feathers of a variety of colors and cloaks, largely songbirds. And very far above them, you can see a couple of mice, much like the shout mouse that you saw recently, the one who has the giant crossbow, with huge crossbows knocked onto wooden posts, just sort of scanning the ground below. Totally speaking, like if this settlement has maybe like several hundred people in it, which seems about right now. Like on first appearance, it looked like a much bigger bastion, but getting closer, you're like 600, 700 mice in one place. Not a small number, but not several thousand. There's probably about like collectively 75 or so mice on various levels of overwatch over the settlement, including a number of them ready by like bats.
Not including the mercenaries, how many are in my troop?
In your troop, you have, not including the 8, you have not including the 10, you have 12 total, plus you, Thom, and Autumn. So 15 collectively under your command,
25.
if you include yourself.
We are outnumbered 2 to 1. That's not terrible. It's not including Dukan and his group, although I think his is even smaller than mine.
We are like
4.
100 mice each. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Yeah,
Sure.
you are weasels. It must be said your capacity for slaughtering well above your weight class has been established.
We're Terminators who can sprint.
Yeah.
Mhm.
You're giants. It's like saying, "Hey, I have 4 hill giants in my employ. They kind of just like to smash shit." Like, yeah, no, it's pretty significant. You are still outnumbered, but considering your plan was never for a straight fight anyway, it was more of an infiltration and assassination mission, that still seems manageable. Just, don't draw them all into an open firefight. You should be okay.
I think Sayana will nod. She's like, oh, this does make me feel a lot safer. Well, in that case, then perhaps I'll take a bit of a load off before getting to business. Tell me, is there somewhere to get a bite to eat? Or something along those lines?
Of course. The market's right that way, and he points across what appears to be a lattice work of pulleys and zip lines going back and forth. And occasionally on the little wooden gondolas, barely big enough to move, like, in some cases, just like 2 to 3 mice at a time. Some are big enough for like 6 mice or some cargo. And there's just a little mouse on the bottom of each one with a handle just going across it both ways. And so he gestures towards one of the lines, and it sort of goes off in the distance towards a bigger set of mushrooms that have actually grown across 2 trees with a series of canopies, like actual cloth canopies stretched over them. And what appears to be a large, like, wooden dowel over the top, which, given that they're ruled by birds, makes a degree of sense that they have, like, a perch of honor there. The market's right there. You are more than welcome to go in. As I understand it, there might even be some, I heard, good food currently being cooked. I hear they're getting rid of some cider. It's almost going out, and they're just handing it out. So if you need something to warm yourselves up, I know this altitude can be a little cold. I recommend that.
I appreciate it. And this part, she thinks to herself, and I'm totally not starting to feel regret about potentially murdering you guys because you honestly seem kind of nice.
um, he just sort of nods.
When they're not trying to kill us, that
Yeah.
is.
He nods and gestures to the rope work. Very well. If you need me, feel free to call me or to ask. Trevor, you're assigned to be their detail until they're ready to tuck in for the night, at which point then report back to me. Likewise, if you need any help anywhere else in the settlement, you can look for us. The torch mice are identified easily by, and he holds up the flasks, the light we carry. Useful for spotting predators and directing fire, but also a handy aid for picking us out amongst crowds. If you need us, just ask. Most of us are more than willing to take some time out of our day.
She doesn't ask this. This is me asking out of character. Has he introduced the mouse with the barn owl paint on?
Yes, that's the shot mouse he introduced as Trevor.
Okay, I that's what I thought. I was like, okay.
Yes.
All right, good. Under my watch.
Yeah, that's definitely Trevor.
Trevor, my new nemesis.
You must be the Belmont. So yeah, there we go. Trevor the shot mouse. Oh, I think we can cut away from there as Nolan walks away from you, and we're back to the infiltrating team. So we're going to say a couple of hours are passing in between this series of interactions. So then, at the very top of the branches, Tucan, you're kind of a little bit exposed. Up in the upper canopy, you realize the sun reaches here a little more easily. It's much brighter here. And while you're above the mice, and you are, but it is still very difficult to maneuver. The branches are thinner up here, and you realize if there's any bats or birds, they might be able to spot you. So you need to be very quiet and very cautious, especially if you're trying to get towards one of the major trees. Assuming you are.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. So now, this is where I'm going to start making you roll some rolls you might not be familiar with.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. All right. So, I'm going to say, make me... You don't have Pathfinder, which means this is going to be a nature roll. And be aware, if you fail, it will temporarily dock your nature.
Fails. Oh, fuck. I'm going to explode those sixes. Well, that's technically one success. Is this an opposed roll?
I think that's a fair assumption, yes.
Okay, then I'm going to go ahead and pop those sixes. Oh, it keeps going.
It keeps going.
Okay, well, that became nothing, but that's going to happen, I suppose. Should I also roll extra
Let's
dice
find
here?
out together. Let's find out together. So that's going to be looking at my shot mouse stats. I'm actually using a very specific group of NPCs for this roll. Oop. Should be about here. Come on, buddy. It's always it always falls slightly out of place whenever I'm looking for it. There it is. Okay. So looking at you, these are. There we go. Woohoo! Dang. Our boy here have rolls, so let's see what we can do. Not good enough to beat you, though.
Go!
So, as you are... so that would be a success. Mark that off. as a pass.
I'm such a sneaky
And
weasel.
yeah. So describe to me how you sneaking around up there, Dukan, on the edge of these branches.
Um, so he's having the smallest weasel in the group go first, of course, that being Cole. Um, Cole's kind of finding us the sturdiest and most steadfast of paths that we can take amongst the boughs of these trees. Um, and he's doing his little scouting ahead bit, giving us a little like super non-conspicuous signal for us to like move forward. Um, I think like at one point there's like a couple of bats that are like still getting back to like rest in the trees, and we're all just like holding tight to these branches, like just like not moving a fucking inch, while like Grimbly and Squeeb, like one of them's like about to sneeze and the other like puts his fingers like over his little weasel mouth or over his little weasel nose, and
We're just hanging up, just hanging upside down with their hands over their nose, just like just the whole time.
yeah, and then the bats fly away and make their nests for the day.
That sounds right to me. It's pretty close, actually.
Only
After
got two successes there, yeah.
Yeah, that was really close. And in fact, actually, it's not just bats that you see. You see something big nearby. So I need to make sure I got this right, because this is a rare roll for me. Yep, there we go. So, flying nearby, you see, or I should say, first you hear it. This loud "seer" sound in the distance. This piercing cry that you, as a weasel, know intimately. It is a creature that preys upon weasels.
It's a falcon.
In fact, it is a hawk. Yes, and nearby, this red-shouldered hawk casts a shadow over the canopy and passes over you, and you all just sort of like cling there as the bats have flown away. And this thing flies down, and nearby a number of smaller birds, weirdly songbirds, it appears. Well, one's a songbird, the other appears to be a shrike, and then a third lazier one behind it, a big black crow flying after it, all dive through the brush as this thing comes absolutely like pounding down towards the settlement. And you realize you think you just found who rules Vinecrawl. It does pass, though, and you're able to... Thank you very much, Ness. You're able to sneak past. Discreetly, thankfully. It's another, 20 minutes of crawling across the limbs of trees, until finally you get to the top of one of these trees, and you see, at the very tippy top of, one of the main trees of Vinecrawl, which you're, clambering across the canopy, you can see it actually abruptly stops. Like, the top of the tree has been snapped off by winds. And in what appears to be, the little hollow stump, is carved out of it this little watchtower on top. Little wooden thing put together with a couple of planks and what appears to be a mushroom on top, or one of these little green fungal growths is like a roof.
Is this the
And
highest point of the settlement that it looks like?
It is. This
We
is
found
likely
his
the
house.
biggest tree. Say what?
We found his house.
Possibly. You have a feeling this high up, the falcon is not roost. This looks barely big enough for about 5 mice and the one bat hanging off the side that appears to be engaging in conversation. It seems like it's specifically a mouse-sized structure.
Got it.
The falcon likely roosts further down, likely closer to the settlement, probably to rule his serfs directly. So, but yeah, this is the tallest tree for sure. None of the other trees have this watchtower.
Does it look like there might be some kind of signaling device or contraption therein?
Make me a scouting roll.
Okay.
I know it's not that high.
5d6. Hey, we take those.
That's pretty sick, actually. Yeah. That's more than enough to see. So, from where you are, Cole just sort of whispers like, "How would they signal down?" And as he mentions that, and you look up, you can see that around where they're all talking and chatting, a couple of them are like appear to be casting dice or lots of some kind. And there's a little bit of like cheering over there. Well, like the slightly more what appears to be important one, wearing a set of 2 hawk feathers over his shoulder, is conversing with the bat and it seems to be like engaging. Behind the one with the 2 feathers, you can see what appears to be a set of tubes, little brass tubes that are clearly some kind of speaking tube that goes down into the tree and resonates going down. So you don't know if they have any, if like they have tops or not. It's facing away from you, but it's very clear like different tubes go to different parts of the tree. So it's not unreasonable to say they just pull the tube open and shout into it and it'd be an alarm.
I see. I know what I can do with this information.
Excellent. So, my next question is, what are you going to do with it, Tukan?
I'm going to take out this small conglomeration of mice up here at the top of the tree. And we're going to find out as much as we can from up here by using Cole as our spokesperson because he has a mouse voice.
I approve of any plan that came from Star Wars A New Hope. I'm 100% on board with you pulling a Han Solo. How are you today?
Absolutely.
I'm
That's
down with
pretty much exactly where my head was at.
I am on board with this. All right. So, as you see all this, as all this takes shape in your head, you hear Cole next to you just whisper like, "How would they communicate, Master? I don't see how." And then next to you see Squeeb and Grembly kind of just like inching in over a little bit, like wicked grins on their Weasley faces, just like, "Give me the order, boss. I'm ready. I'm so ready. I am so ready to not be sneaking anymore." As like Grembly is just like clearly eager to get a little revenge after having been shot to hell the other night by these crossbow mice.
So Dukan lays out his plan to the weasels in his party, which includes Cole. He is going to have the weasels cause havoc and mayhem, while the smaller weasel, gets on the inside because I doubt we'll fit to make sure that nobody goes for the speaking tubes, and I'm going to go for the bat.
Okay. As you describe this, they all listen with rapt attention. And eventually, as you get to the part describing, Cole has been like watching this the entire time, like, "Yeah, this seems super cool. It seems super cool." And you tell him, like, "And I'm going to need you to sneak in. And you're going to need to use the tube and talk to them." His face begins to fall like, "Wait, you want me to what?" And we're going to cut from there over to you, Natalie.
Perfect.
So, okay, Sienna. We can probably switch it back to like slightly more upbeat music a little bit. So,
I'm having a much
Sienna.
better time. I'm getting like cider with my 2 mouse friends.
Yeah.
Actually, I'm sorry. I'm gonna restart this video real quick because it's lagging.
Yeah, no, you're
you see me
roboting
come
and
back
stuff.
stable. I got you.
Cool.
No worries. So, I'll just set the scene for everyone about the environment we're in. Welcome back. So
That seems a little.
yeah, came through perfect. As I mentioned, the market of Vinecrawl is this sprawling structure. It's about as big a structure as you can see in this place. when you are walking up the tree on the interior, you can see that like every couple of like rotations in the wall of the tree, there's like an actual like doorway. And the doorway is largely they're covered by cloth. Sometimes they have like actual wood doors, but they just sort of like cut a door out of the interior bark and then just put a hinge on it, and it always opens in. And you get a feeling the way that the apartments are is they're sort of like circular on the interior of the wall between the layer of bark on the exterior and the petrified wood within. And so it's not big, these apartments, but there's many of them. And they appear to live in these little ring apartments that they kind of have to go in one way, walk all the way around, and then walk out the door the same way they came in, because the door only opens one way. And it's not particularly convenient. But the mice of Vinecrawl seem to have grander designs for their exterior structures and tend to live outside as a result. Most of these mice are walking about wearing relatively comfortable clothes, a lot of like very soft, light, like cotton fiber. Occasionally you'll see like hand-woven silk, spider silk clothing. It's very airy, toga-esque almost for a lot of these mice. They seem to enjoy the breeze. And the structure of the market is no less beautiful. As these mice live largely outdoors, their market, despite not being super big in and of itself as one structure, is a collective set of other mushrooms leading below and above that are just something crawled up to and down from. And you see mice like picnicking on individual like mushrooms, just kind of vibing, some chatting, laughing, sharing crackers, cheeses, food. You'll even see like one little girl mouse running by carrying a giant thing of honeycomb to share with her family. It's nice. It's pretty busy. The market itself is currently occupied by well over like a dozen different merchants, which is a pretty decent a number of people considering that it's like getting on in the afternoon at this point. And it's pretty pleasant, actually. You can hear like the soft sound of like what appears to be a mouse troubadour somewhere, like just playing a lute, softly singing some weird tale in some local language you can't quite understand, but the gist sort of hits you where it's like it's a song of memory and a pleasant one. And in fact, turns out Nolan was right. You get there and
it's so
immediately.
nice to not be killed.
Yeah, you'd hope so. He looks like a
This
civilian.
video is lagging a lot.
No, it's all right. So, from what you can see, Nolan was right. One of the merchants is just giving away cider. Like, they made it, and as they put it, like, to the small crowd, the small throng of mice coming by, grabbing pints and then walking away, and then bringing the empty pints back to fill up again. They had apples they dropped from a nearby tree. They rendered as many of them as they could into cider as quickly as they could. But it's been almost a month now, and no one's bought it because it's rare and it's expensive. And while a couple people did buy it, they didn't buy the lion's share of it. So now they're selling it for like coppers for a flagon, which is not bad. Which is weird to you that they trade in coin, like normal coin, as opposed to like where you're from, where they usually trade by good. But you know how a market works well enough to sort of figure it out. And eventually they just get to the point where they're just like, at this point, giving it away. Because even coppers with a flagon, it's not selling fast enough. And they're like, we have to toss it out by tonight. Yeah, after tonight, it's not going to be apple cider anymore. It's going to be mead. And we're not allowed to sell alcohol here. So take it. And so, yeah, like, you managed to get, for you and your whole crew, like, pretty hefty flagons of this stuff. It's like almost about a third the size of your little mousy body. It is comically big, these mugs. And you managed to find a little space to relax and talk where you have relative quiet and peace. You do see that nearby, Trevor is still like, he's still serving as liaison, which to him also appears to be like keeping an eye on you all to make sure you don't cause any trouble or ruckus. But he's not like right over your shoulder listening. He's on the other side of the bazaar, just like keeping an eye on you all from a distance, giving you your privacy, but also making sure that you're not actually like causing any trouble. So you can talk quietly and in peace with your personnel. So
Okay. I'm giving a second because sure you're actually done talking.
okay, that's fair. I got you.
Is going to motion over Tom and Autumn. Starting to not there's too many civilians, so many innocents that would be hurt. Action
We're
is
having-
to create a distraction and some chaos.
We're having pretty
to
bad.
assassinate those who were.
Yeah.
It's
I'm-
pretty bad.
Yeah, I'm catching it. Yeah.
Interrupting you. What's going on?
No, I'm sorry. I'm not trying to. The lag is pretty bad, but I caught what you were saying.
No, Derek was saying something.
I was pointing out how bad the
and
thing is
I
going.
can't have been.
The
I'm sorry.
Oh.
If we need to take a little break, we're at 2.5 hours.
Yeah, this is honest. Yeah, because we're all just talking over each other.
Okay, let's let's cut to a short break, folks. If we can't get the tech issue sorted, we might just need to prematurely end this session here, unfortunately, because if tech is being like this, then we're literally not going to be able to keep playing. But love you guys, and yeah, we'll be back shortly, and you'll know either way. Don't go anywhere.
Mhm.
All right, folks. Well, I'm so sorry, but the internet issues are they're not getting any better. We tried resetting. Yeah, I don't know what's going on. I think the client that we use to capture video and audio from is just having a day. So this is probably the ideal point for us to stop the session. I'm going to turn things over to Omni to close us out.
Thank you very much, friend. So, wanted to say thank you all for everybody who's watching. This was Mouse Guard the Frontier for this day. We'll be back, not next week, but the week after. As you guys know, it's an every other week show. And I'm super excited to get back to this little arc. And I want to thank both Natalie and Derek, as always, for being my players. They're incredible. Let's go around Robin and introduce everybody. I'll start very quickly by introducing our friend Redemption VA, who normally would be joining us on this stream and has taken a little bit of a step back. Wish them well. Hope he's doing okay. Go check him out, twitch.tv/VA, or I believe it's VA Redemption on Twitch. I always mess that up.
It's Redemption VA on Twitch. It's VA
Redemption
Redemption
VA
on Twitter,
on
I think.
I think you're right, yes. Redemption
Pretty
VA
sure.
on Twitch. Go take a look. The dude is super fun. Whenever he's streaming, it's well worth a tune in. Whether that be the APs he's doing or Magic the Gathering content, it's very fun. He's also doing a Patreon for Magic the Gathering cards and Magic the Gathering alternate art that he's up to, and it's super fucking cool. I recommend everyone take a look at it. The art is gorgeous. I have one of them inside of one of my decks, and I would show you, but I'm not going to flip through an entire commander deck to find it. It is beautiful, though. And that's red. So go ahead, guys. Start at the top and go on through.
All right, go ahead, Natalie. I'm looking for somebody frustrated too.
Slaggy. I won't be on
Sorry, just
this week. We're taking Saturday off. This week we're taking Saturday off from Covet to celebrate mine and Jarek's anniversary. Musinu will be the following Saturday, where we'll pick back up for Covet, and then the week after playing Red's campaign on his channel on that Monday, and then Mouse Guard on Wednesday.
Awesome.
thank you,
Thank you, Natalie. Much love, much appreciation as always. Love you, baby. Can't wait to celebrate our
Both froze at the same time doing this.
Can't wait to celebrate our 3 years together. Looking forward to it.
Congratulations to both of you two. Seriously, that's an awesome accomplishment.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks to everybody in chat for being here. I surely do appreciate it. We are going to be raiding into Dorkaiser. Here's playing some Yu-Gi-Oh, which I do not approve of, but Andrew's a cool guy, so we'll let it slide. But yeah, I love you guys. I will be seeing you next on Wednesday for Death Watch. In a week? Wow. Holy shit. That's crazy.
Enjoy
Okay.
it, buddy.
Oh, I'll be working and doing stuff in the background every day in the meantime, don't worry.
Damn.
That's how it be. But yeah, thanks again to Ted for the 16 months. Love you, buddy. We're gonna be seeing y'all very soon. I love you. Bye bye.
Take care, folks.